Hey everybody, it's Sam Jacobs, CEO Pavilion. We've got another episode of Revenue Blind Spots brought to you by Otter today. And today we're going to be interviewing my good friend, Asad Zaman. So again, Revenue Blind Spots, a short episode where we go deep on some of the challenges that revenue leaders face and how they can avoid blind spots in the future. We hope it's instructive and educational. It's brought to you by Otter AI, and we hope you enjoy it. Here's my conversation with Asad.
Focus is to dive deep into the blind spots that have shaped your leadership strategy, your strategy, and your growth, uncovering lessons that can help the next generation of revenue executives. Today on the show, I'm delighted to have my friend Asad Zaman, the CEO of Sales Talent Agency. Asad's originally from Pakistan. He was a professional poker player for a brief period of time before he sold implements to create holes in your garden so that things could grow. And then he ultimately joined Sales Talent Agency, really, I'm sure, as a lowly recruiter. He worked his way up, and he's now the CEO. And one of the leading voices in the B2B tech ecosystem. And he's also the co-host of the Top Line podcast. He's a Pavilion ambassador and an all-around good guy.
And a man with many blind spots. So this is a good one for me.
Indeed. His ego has grown as he's become more notable in stature, and the number of blind spots has proliferated at an exponential rate. Every day, people say something mean about Asad that he's not aware of.
Off-putting to some.
No, I'm just kidding. You can tell we're good friends, folks. So listen, we're here because of Otter. We appreciate their support and their work. And Asad, we're here to talk about a blind spot. So think of a time in your career when you had a significant blind spot in your approach to leadership, go-to-market strategy, operational execution, when you encountered a circumstance that caught you by surprise. And let's talk about it a little bit. So when I prompt you like that, and we love the use of the word prompt in the modern era, everything's a prompt. So let me prompt you. You are
I am prompted.
What comes to mind? What comes to mind?
I became CEO in 2020, and I'd really been a professional for like 6 or so years at the time. And so I didn't have lots of operational experience. I had a lot of passion, and mediocrity is invisible till passion comes and exposes it, my friend. And so I think that got me into the seat, but I had a lot of blind spots. And so you look for advice, guidance, best practices, etc. And there was one piece of advice that I took that was bad advice. And that was that when you're designing your business, you should design it to not have key person risk. What do we mean by that? Basically, if somebody else is looking at your business from the outside, they should feel like this business will not skip a beat if you got struck by lightning and were not around anymore. And everything will be just fine. And so I took that really seriously. And if you take that really seriously, you're trying to design your organization in a way where you really don't matter all that much in the grand scheme of things. And I think that would rank as top 2 or 3 worst pieces of advice I ever took. And that was the blind spot. So we can go into it. But
let's go into it because what you've just articulated is pretty unconventional. Most people would say we don't want key man risk, or key woman risk. We don't want key person risk.
Sam, let's be inclusive. Let's be inclusive.
I'm serious. I want to be inclusive, and I don't want key person risk, regardless of how they identify from a gender perspective. So why do you think that's such bad advice? Because it makes sense on its face. It makes sense that you want redundancy. You want to build a machine. The machine is the thing that has enterprise value. Not the cult of personality around Asad or Sam. So why do you think it's such bad advice? I love this.
It might be good advice for some people, but for me it was bad advice. So why? When they say it, what do they mean? They mean that your organization's enterprise value will be higher if somebody is looking at your business and is able to evaluate it and say that no matter what, if this person was out of the equation, if we bought this business, and Asad is no longer there, the asset that we're buying is not necessarily going to miss Asad. And they mean it from 2 components. One is internal, the other is external. Internally, people will not leave just because Asad left. And externally, customers won't stop coming in or will not churn because Asad is not there. And because of that, we can buy this asset and asset can move on, and we're buying something that is going to hold shape. And that is important to us as acquirers. And I think that's a very fair perspective. I just don't care what they think is what I realized, because enterprise value only really matters if you are trying to sell your business and matters in the moment that you're trying to sell it. I don't plan on selling this business. I have 33 years left in my career, Sam. I plan on working till 70. I'm 37 years old. This is what I'm going to do. Whatever version of this problem will be floating around our ecosystem, I'll be there as well. And so I don't plan on selling it. And so enterprise value matters zero to me. And so the things I would do to drive enterprise value are not necessarily the right things for me to focus on. And what I have learned once I shifted my mindset is that sometimes the things that help you build enterprise value, there are trade-offs in other areas. There are trade-offs. You don't create enterprise value without trading things off. And those trade-offs I'm not comfortable with, I'm not excited about. I also started looking at some of the great businesses that are out there because I want to build an enduring business. My goal is to build a business that endures past my career. That would be a beautiful thing to be able to do. And businesses,
some would say, Asad, that would mean you're trying to create enterprise value.
not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Because it will be a valuable thing. Sometimes doing the thing that by not focusing on enterprise value, you by mistake might create enterprise value. I think that's a really
counterintuitive.
That's very fair to say. But an enduring business is not necessarily the most valuable version of that business. It's just a business that has the ability to survive generations. And we have such businesses in the world. And most of those businesses have people at the top that are deeply associated with those businesses. When you think of Apple, you think Steve Jobs. When you think of Tesla, you think of Musk. If you look at the great businesses out there, their founders were not worrying about key person risk. They were building the best business they could build, and they were shoulder to shoulder with their people fighting that fight, trying to build that business. And inevitably, they ended up creating the most enterprise value out there. But you don't look at Microsoft and not think of Gates. You don't think of Apple and not think of Steve Jobs in the moments where they were there. You do associate it with them. And that was something that was really striking to me. I was like, I can't think of a great business where I can't think of the person and the business together. And when I realized that, I said, okay, how is this thinking damaging my business? And I'll give you some examples of it. If you don't want internally there's this internal risk. If this person leaves, will people leave? Then what are you doing to make it so that your people are not deeply connected to you? I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. I want the people in my business to be in this business because they want to fight this fight with me shoulder to shoulder. If I am worried about key person risk, I might take a step back from being market facing. If I don't care about it, I might be the number one business developer for that business. I don't mind being the most public facing person in the business. I don't mind being a big chunk of our demand generation, a big chunk of our projects that come because of me. And I'm doing the things that make it so that more and more of that comes through. I don't mind doing that because I'm not worried about key person risk. But if I am, I'm probably not doing that. I'm trying to build a marketing team that is doing all these fancy marketing things. And that might work to some extent, but it might not be the best thing because marketing teams might focus in on, here's an example. If you want to sell your business, it is much better to show performance marketing as a big driver of growth than brand.
Correct.
How crazy is that? Performance marketing, which is not defendable. Bobby tomorrow can start a company and can start performance marketing for that company, right? Brand is way more defendable. But you would basically focus heavily on performance marketing because you can show it to some external party and they can be like, I can scale up and scale this down and this is how demand goes up and down. But if you focus heavily on brand, they're like, and that brand is associated with you as the individual at the front of that business, that acquirer is like, what happens when Asad leaves? And that makes them concerned. That means they would give that thing less enterprise value. But what I learned was that the quality of demand that comes through performance marketing versus comes through brand is greatly different. Brand related demand is much higher quality than performance marketing related demand. Think of it, right? Like if somebody is seen your content, Sam, for months and months, they've been following you on LinkedIn. They're like, I like this guy's point of view. It connects with me. His philosophical view on how to do business is one that matters to me. That is one person. And then there's another person who saw your Google ad, clicked it, came through, signed up. There's a different journey there. There's a different level of understanding of the problem you solve, what the ethos of this organization is, how connected they feel already to you and your business before they come through. That doesn't happen when they see a banner ad on Google. And so it does change your thinking about how you drive demand, how you service the market. And ever since I stopped caring about what they thought, I did all the things that they probably don't like that are really helping our business. And I'm excited to have made that shift.
A couple of thoughts. So first of all, you're absolutely right, and I think the subtext here is I'm in the same boat that you are, which is that my personality and my persona is directly tied to my company, and historically, almost all of our growth has come from my brand. Which, if you look at you look at me, you look at Adam Robinson, you look at obviously if we're compared to Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, then yeah, we didn't create trillion-dollar businesses. But on the other hand, you can create a 15, 20, $25 million business on a single person's personality. That's pretty wild. But there's two factors. So I'm curious on your reaction. And I think I understand that, maybe you've factored in the trade-offs and you're comfortable with them. So for me, speaking plainly, as we do on Revenue Blind Spots, and as you know, as an avid listener,
we love Otter.
We do love Otter, and they do great work. And but here's the point.
Dare I say, Sam, the best call recording platform in the market.
I believe that. I believe that. Otter is like the hive mind that captures all of our insights. It's in every meeting, and then you can query it with their, with the generative AI stuff, and you can be like, "How is the business doing? What's the sentiment?" But here's my point. This is a digression. We do love Otter, but I have a question for you, Asad, which is if you did want to grow faster, it's hard to know what to do if the business and the demand gen engine is wrapped around you. When you think about, okay, we're doing whatever you're doing in revenue, and I know what it is, but I won't share it with the audience, but it's good. It's great, in fact. But if you're like, I want it to double, is there a formula that you could employ to double?
Why not?
If I said, here's $10 million, and you're going to give me 50 million, show me the playbook to get to 50 million in revenue for STA. Is it a problem? Is it not a problem?
You know what I might do, Sam? You know what I might do if I wanted to become a $50 million business?
Would you sponsor Pavilion?
Maybe we would create a media company that would be out there and maybe we won't care about next year. Maybe when you're playing the game that I'm playing, if I don't plan on selling this business, my level of patience is a little bit different. Like I'm thinking in 5-year increments, 10-year increments, not in 1-year increments. And so if you said, hey, how do you double this business next year? I might not have a great answer for you, but I can tell you that I can do it in the timeline that matters to me. And I would do that by building out the brand further. I might say, hey guys, we're doing this top line thing. Well, fantastic. What if this was one of the world's biggest tech podcasts? And what if the newsletter was a publication? And what if we had some of the brightest minds in tech who are current operators coming out together and helping the market understand what's going on and how to navigate businesses in this environment? And what if it became great? What if it was a beautiful thing that we created? Would the downstream of that not be more brand recognition and better brand perception? I think more people don't know me than know me. Same for you, Sam. Like as aware the market is of you, there are more people that don't know you than know you. And so there's a lot of room to run.
Not a controversial statement.
Not a controversial thing. No one's going to fight this fight. And so I think if there are so many people that don't know me and have no understand, they can't even perceive me because they're not aware of me, well, those are the two things I have to drive. I have to create more awareness, and I have to make sure that the perception of me is credible and strong. And I think there's a lot that I can do to 10x that. And I wholeheartedly believe if I 10x'd that, could I not 3x the business? I could do it.
That's a great answer. Okay, so let's talk about time horizon. How do you pace yourself in this world where you accept? Again, this is all just a personal conversation, but I get tired. How do you pace yourself? How do you make sure that, okay, you want to work in 5 to 10 year increments, that you have the stamina, the durability to do that in a way that feels like you're running the marathon, not a sprint?
I think I'm learning how to get better at that, because there's one thing of thinking in those increments, but then the action is more short-term focused usually, right? Like you're solving today's problems and you're dealing with business today. And we are ambitious people and we feel natural urgency, and I have a tendency to sometimes work well into the night, which can be tiring. And there's some really interesting, like we're all getting older every single day. Like that's also a non-controversial statement, Sam. We all get older every day. And so what your body can handle also changes. And I would say I'm learning how to pace myself better. The thing that I have learned that has helped me the most is you have to force yourself to think about 5 years, to think about 3 years in, to think about 10 years in. It's when you start thinking like that, if that becomes one of the predominant thoughts in your mind, then the things you start doing are in service of that thing. Whereas if I'm obsessing about the next quarter, and some days, some weeks I'm obsessing about the next quarter, right? Like none of us are perfect. But when you're obsessing about the next quarter, you pace yourself in a way that you're running a sprint. And sometimes you do have to run sprints, and that's necessary, right? We all just work through a downturn. In the downturn, you have to say, we're now at war. And the number one priority to achieve any long-term vision is to get through this choppy period. And so your focus does become more short-term and your behavior gets impacted by that. But then when you come out of it, you have to tell yourself, what I care about is a longer-term thing. So let's think about that a lot more. Let's meditate on that. And if I meditate on that, I think my actions reflect that a lot more. And I've noticed that. Coming out of the downturn, I think was correct to focus on the downturn. You have to, like, it's crazy not to. But since coming out of it, I have been thinking a lot more about bets that we're all going to be making together that might not have any payout in the next 12 months. But if we do it right, in 5 years, it'll be the difference maker. And I think that's fun.
I love that. I love that answer. What about employees though? Do you worry about a key man risk or key person risk for employees? Because I can understand your perspective that I can do this forever, but if you had a bunch of your revenue concentrated in one person that worked for you, isn't that a little bit of a different calculus?
I don't think you should have too much revenue concentrated in one employee. But, we both run 8-figure businesses. We're past the 10 million mark. And so there are some downstreams of that. Like you will have many people in your organization and revenue will be split across people and teams. But I'm also not afraid of some level of concentration there. I'm not. And I'm also not afraid to think that I can get people to go on a very long-term journey with me. The average tenure of our business is 7.5 years. We're a group of cross people. And there will be, every now and then, some person will come through our doors for whom this thing is at the intersection of their talents and interests. It is very economically viable. And they realize this is my thing that I want to do. Why would I do something else? And they will make the same bet I'm making. And we have examples of that. So I'm not being crazy in thinking this. Like there's somebody in my organization, Armin. Armin and I walked through the doors of this organization 1 month apart 11 years ago. And when we talk together, we talk about 10 years, 20 years down the line. And there are many such people. There's some people that have been in this organization longer than I have, and I've been here for 11 years. And so I do think that you can find people that also care about doing great work and want to build something. They want to look back at the end of their lives and feel fulfilled. And fulfillment comes from doing something that is meaningful to you, and to them, building something that sustains and building this craft business connects with them. And there are a lot of people that will come through and be like, this is the worst thing in the world. I don't want to do this. This is wrong for me. And that's okay as well. But I do feel that our batting average is in our favor, meaning that if I hire 10 people, I believe at least 2 or 3 of them, I'll be working with them 10, 15 years down the line. I believe that.
I love that. Asad, what a great conversation this has been on revenue blind spots. Before we go, I spoke with you earlier today. You had some great ideas, but if we're thinking about people that have influenced you, if we're thinking about podcasts, books, ideas, people, shout outs, but really a way to pay it forward. Who's influenced you recently that you think we should know about, or what book or idea?
I am really focused on the media landscape right now. That's what I've been studying a lot. And there's a new publication called Every.to. And Every is a small publication that focuses on AI and how to use it to get the most out of it. And it's a bunch of really thoughtful people that are writing great content. And you can see the craftsmanship in just everything they do, the way that site is designed, the way every article is put together. It's just so thoughtful, and thoughtful things. Great craftsmanship is inspiring to me. Like if I meet a cobbler, Sam, who's just really good at that craft of being a cobbler, that's inspiring. And so I'm really inspired by Every. People should go check them out. And in our world of tech, who's inspiring me, we interviewed a really nice man. His name is Asad Simons, who is the CEO and founder of Bolt. And that was a very inspiring conversation. Top line episode 111. People should go check that out as well. Look at that. Some cross promotion here. Sorry, Otter.
We love Otter. We don't need to say about it. It's all good. Asad, thanks so much for being our guest on Revenue Blind Spots. What a great blind spot that key man risk is in the eye of the beholder. And if you're not trying to mark your business to market, then key man or key person risk is perfectly acceptable. And I think that's a fairly controversial take. And following any advice blindly, we can say that that's a blind spot.
That's a blind spot.
There we go. There we go. So thanks for listening to Revenue Blind
Thank
Spots,
you,
everybody. And make sure that you check out Otter. It's the best call recording and conversational intelligence platform there is, and it's a great company and a great supporter of this show. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Bye, everyone.